Welcome friends, I am Harshal Warade, Assistant Professor from Sanjini College of Engineering, Kopargaon. Today we will learn about gauges and type of gauges for inspection. Gauges. Let us learn gauges. Gauges are the inspection tools of rigid design without a scale which serves to check the dimensions of manufacturing parts. So these are again the inspection instruments where we are not getting the actual dimensions of the component, but we are just checking the dimensions of manufacturing parts. Gauges do not indicate the actual value of the inspected part of the component. They are used to determine whether the part is made within the specified limits or not. So gauges are not going to indicate any dimension value. They are just going to tell us whether the part is made within the specified limits of dimensions or not. Need of the gauges. With the help of measuring instruments, it is difficult to measure each and every dimensions of given components. In case of mass production, such a conventional inspection becomes uneconomical and time-consuming process. We know that the mass production process manufactures number of components daily. Such components, they need to be inspected for their dimensional features as well as geometrical features. But by making use of conventional measuring instruments such as vernier caliper, micrometer and other such instruments, it is not possible for the department to or industry to measure the dimensions of those components. It becomes uneconomical and time-consuming process. Also, in case of mass production, interchangeability is needed to be maintained at low cost. Interchangeability must be at low cost. If it is at high cost, then the cost of product will go on increasing. Hence, interchangeability should be needed to be maintained at low cost. So faster inspection methods leads to increase in productivity, which is possible by making use of gauges. Hence, use of gauges for inspection of component leads to improved productivity, low cost, fast inspection without the need of skilled operator, and hence the gauges are needed for inspection purpose. Let us learn classification of gauges. Gauges are classified into different types. They are classified based on various criteria. First is according to their purposes. Let us see workshop gauge to check the dimension after manufacturing. The workshop gauges are used by the operator during the manufacturing. Inspection gauges, they are used for checking the part before the final acceptance. These are generally used by the inspectors after manufacturing the component. Purchase inspection gauges, these are used to check the part of other factory. Generally the other factory or small scale industry or medium scale industry which is there, it acts as a vendor company to another company. So when your vendor company is supplying the material or manufacture components, those need to be checked before acceptance by the master company. Reference or master gauges, these are used to check the dimension of the gauges. Now gauges are classified according to their types. Standard gauges, these are made to the nominal size of the part to be tested. Limit gauges, these are the go and no go gauges. Limit gauges generally widely used there in industry. These are the types of gauges manufactured according to the limits of the dimensions of component which is to be tested. As there are two limits of the dimensions, the two different gauges are used to check the each dimensions. They are widely used in industries. There is another type of Classification of gauges. Gauges are classified according to the type of surface to be tested. So there are two types, plug gauges and snap gauges. Plug gauges are used to check the holes of many different shapes and sizes, whereas snap gauges are used to check the shaft sizes. Classification of plane gauges. According to the form tested surface, plug gauges for checking the holes, and snap gauges and ring gauges for checking the shafts. As shown in the figure, these gauges are used for checking either holes or the shafts. Other types of limit gauges. There are some other types of limit gauges also, such as taper gauges, screw thread gauges, screw pitch gauges, radius gauges, fillet gauges, and filler gauges. Let us see here one by one. Taper gauges. The most satisfactory method of testing a taper is to use taper gauges. They are also used to gauge the diameter of the taper at the some point. Taper gauges are made in both the plug and ring styles, and in general follow the same standard construction as that of plug and ring gauges. Screw thread gauges, as the name suggests, they are used for checking the screw threads of the different components, threaded components. To check the circular shaft, a ring gauge should be used as go gauge. Screw pitch gauge. Now, as the name suggests, the screw threads which are having different pitches. So for checking those pitches, a screw pitch gauge is used. Screw pitch gauge can be easily applied on the external as well as internal screw threads of the components, and screw pitch of a thread can be found out easily. Radius and fillet gauges. Radius gauges, as the name suggests, radius is generally given to avoid the stress concentration wherever two surfaces meet. Hence, proper radius is to be applied at the required positions. When the external surface is curved, then it is known as radius, and this radius which is there, it is to be measured with the help of radius gauge. So it consists of blades which one end corresponding to external radius is formed and the other end as internal radius is formed. Wherever internal radii are formed, that is called as fillet. So that is called as fillet gauges. It is suitable for both radius as well as fillet measurements also. Filler gauge or thickness gauge. Filler gauge, these are the gauges which are used to measure the gap or width between the two parallel flat surfaces which are near to each other. It consists of number of narrow sheet metal strips made of different thickness assembled together. Its working principle is totally dependent on the sense of feel which is sensed by the human being. While using the filler blade, it should neither be forced between the parallel surfaces nor should it be slide freely. So depending upon the sensing signal received by the operator, the filler gauge can be used for finding out for measuring the gap between the two flat parallel surfaces. Best example of filler gauge is to maintain or to measure the gap of the spark plug electrodes. So these are the screw thread gauges. As the name suggests, they are used for checking the screw threads of the. Thank you.